Next fly we're going to tie is a big bushy thing called the Hare's Ear Dragon Nymph. This little furry critter accounts for many big fish throughout the year, especially in the summertime. You want to use them a little bit smaller than you do in the springtime when they're more mature. Instead of using woolly buggers, this is the fly I always start off with when I'm hunting for big trout. So let's tie it. To start off with, we're going to use the Tiemco 200R hook. And we'll get our thread going here. Just like so. And for an underbody, what I'm going to be using is furry foam. Since I'm already have the blue furry foam out, that's what I'll be using. But you can use just about any color that you want. So you just want to cut a strip. And it's like so. Doesn't have to be exact. Pick it up. And we're going to tie it in about midpoint on the hook shank. Wrap back. Bring our thread forward. Just fold this back over. Take a couple turns of thread. Fold it back over. Wrap with our thread. Then we'll just bring our thread all the way forward. And then we'll wrap our furry foam up to where we have our thread. By going back and forth with the furry foam, all the material's on top of the fly and not hindering the hook gap. Now we'll bring our thread back. We're going to form a dubbing loop. So what we do, get our thread out here, form a loop of thread, bring our thread forward here, then we're going to attach our loop dubber. This particular one is made by Dynaking and is my favorite one. What we're going to do for the rest of the body, we're going to do it out of hare's ear. And to do this, we just take a little bunch of it, stick it in there, just like so. And since these little critters are so good at camouflaging themselves, they're kind of a modelly color, we're going to use several different colors of hare's ear here. We're using a natural gray, tan, and an olive. Just use a couple bunches of each different color here and just intermix them. That way we're going to have a nice, modelly, furry, hairy dragonfly nymph. Just get a bunch in here, like so. Then what I do is I just pull it tight and twist it a little bit to get it caught in between the thread. Then I just kind of move my thread out of the way and give it a spin. With each spin, it's just making it real tight and real durable. That ought to be good enough. Now I'll grab it with my hackle pliers and we'll just start wrapping it forward. Right over that furry foam. You can pull back, make it real dense if you want to with each turning wrap. All the way up to where we have our thread and we've covered all that underbody. Just like so. Then that little bit of hare's ear I pulled off, we'll set that to the side and keep it for a later time. And we'll come in and trim off that thread. Make sure it's tied in there good. And I kind of pick it out a little bit along the sides, just like so. Then I'll come in, just trim it a little bit flat on the top, just like so. And if it's really hairy along the sides, I want to come in and trim it just a little bit because I want it to be kind of a football or egg shape, just like that. Next thing we're going to do is take some medallion sheeting for our wing pads and shell back. We'll cut one strip here, just like so. Cut it off. Now we're ready to tie it in. As we lay it up here, just like that, at kind of an angle. Want to tie it down. A couple turns of thread, just like so. Take the remainder and fold it back over, just like so. Then we'll take both and trim it. Now before we go on and set this down, we'll bring our thread forward and tie this out over the eye. And this is going to be our middle wing pad as well as our shell back. And I'll fold it back and just cut it so it's not quite as long. One of the nice things about fly tying, you can do it outside, but it also can create a little havoc with you, as I'm sure you can tell on the monitor or on the tape there. The light's changing a little bit. And then we'll just bring our thread forward. Now we're ready to tie in some legs. For the legs, we're going to use turkey biots. We're going to take our turkey. I'll just strip that off of there a little bit. I'm going to select 6 legs off of here. Put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then we're going to tie them in so they curve out. Notice how they have a natural curve to them. Tie it in so it's a little bit longer than the body. Hold it along on the side away from you. Tie a couple turns of thread in there, tie it in. Do the same thing towards you. Make sure that it's nice and even, like so. Couple turns of thread, make sure it's tied in there nice and good. Cut off the excess, just like that. Now I want the thread to be about in the middle of the thorax area. We're going to tie in our middle set of legs. Again, we're going to want it to curve out. This time we want the legs to be a little bit shorter than those hind legs. Tie it in with several turns of thread. Grab another turkey biot. We'll do the same thing on the side towards us. Make sure it's the same length as the one that we just tied on. Again, pinch it so it's right along the side of the fly. Tie it in with several wraps of thread, making sure it's in there nice and good. Then we want to trim off our excess here. Now before we tie in the last set of legs, we're going to come forward so we can tie in our eyes. Just like so. Tie them in there with several figure eights. And these burnt mono eyes from Umpqua do the trick for tying these big ugly bugs. Now we take our thread back a little bit. Now we're ready to do our front legs. And tie it in so the tip is out over the eyes, or right off to the side and flared out. Tie it in, several turns of thread so it's in there nice and tight. And we're going to take that last remainder of the turkey biot and do the same thing towards us. Again, making sure it's about the same length. Tie it in, take several turns of thread there, make sure it's in there nice and tight. One nice thing about tying outside, 1 minute it's hot and the sun goes under, cools off. Nice gentle breeze is blowing right now. Boy, does it feel good. Now we're ready to dub our thorax. We're going to take some of our hare's ear, dub it on here, dub a little bit more on there. As you can see, the mosquitoes kind of like this too, doing a little dance around the fly. And we'll just start dubbing around the eye a little bit, through the legs, pull them towards the front, and just start working our way back on the fly. We're going to separate our legs here, just like so, just so we can dub in between there. Add just a little more dubbing, so we can finish up here, just like that. Make this nice buggy fly. Now we're going to take our wing case, fold it over. You want to hold it fairly loosely, so when we take this first wrap here, it kind of digs down into the dubbing. And we'll come up between the middle legs and the front legs, tie it down again, and then come in right behind the eye and do the same thing, and then right up to the eye of the hook. Now we're ready to whip finish it off. So we'll grab our whip finisher, just like so, and tie it off. Snip off our thread. Now we're going to trim this wing just a little bit longer than the previous two. Since we don't want a blunt cut on there, we'll kind of round them off a little bit. Just like so, making it a little more natural looking. And then what I like to do is turn it over and trim it flat on the bottom. And be careful not to trim off your legs too. Take off that excess. There's a straggler there. And a few more hairs sticking in the wrong place. Just like so. And there we have the hare's ear dragon nymph.